go on to 11 then, operations update.
Commissioners, that would be me. I don't know that I can top Bert's presentation. I don't have all the fancy bells and whistles. I'm going to give you just an update on a couple of things. First of all, I'd like to introduce someone to you. Our newest operations manager, Dave Green, is in the audience here this morning. Dave's been with us 1 month. Happy to have him on board. So you'll all get a chance to see his happy smiling face around. Dave's overseeing fixed route and street supervision. Nikki Lahr, our other operations manager, is moving over to take supervision of dial ride and dispatch. So we're splitting our operations as far as command and control, mainly just because we've continued to grow, adding staff. It's more difficult for just one operations manager to take care of all dial ride, fixed route, street operations, and dispatch. So we're happy to have Dave on our team to help split those duties up. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, Dave.
Sure.
A little background. Feel free.
Yeah, I graduated from St. Cloud State. I was in the Marine Corps for 4.5 years. Graduated from St. Cloud State. Did a short stint. I've been with Opportunity Services. I worked over at Rivercrest for quite a while. Was with Stearns County for a little bit, and most recently I was with the Workforce Center as the program manager. So I transitioned over to transit, different world, but very similar in the aspect of staff management and different programs, and so the connection there was pretty easy. Just learning transit is going to be the challenge, and I'm slowly learning that there are different things that are similar with workforce development, with transportation. So making those connections have been good. So I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be here. Metro Bus seems to be my final stop in my career destination, so I'm excited about that. So, any questions you guys might have?
Oh, welcome.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you.
A couple operations items for you, commissioners, and then I'll talk about the item that's on the screen here. Our new routes, of course, you saw the ridership. You know, there's a change in our ridership now and a shift. And we're going to have to probably address some of this with some additional marketing and some efforts as fall moves on. And we haven't hit cold weather yet. Today's one of the first days with frost on the ground, so we'll see if the students respond to that. You know, we've had a lot of college students still walking and biking to campus, so we haven't seen the big masses we were expecting with fall semester kicking in. I imagine that we're going to start experiencing that now with the cold mornings. A couple of changes in route that we're working on right now. They're going to take effect next week. Making an adjustment to Route 5, and we're going to make a change on how we serve St. Cloud State. Instead of serving the Miller Center on the outbound leg of the route, we're actually going to stay on 5th Avenue as a little time saver on the front end of the route. And we're also going to send that route past Cashwise and Wade Avenue, which we had removed that little segment of the route to have the route travel on 2nd Avenue in Wade Park. Through customer requests, we've found that Cashwise has continued to be a good destination for us. We're going to switch that route over to Wade Avenue. On Route 11, that's a combination of the old University route and the old Southside route, which serves the Coburns on Cooper Avenue. We were serving Coburns both directions. On Cooper, we're going to actually take the return leg away from Cooper Avenue and send it down Roosevelt Road past Garden Square Apartments. It gives us another connection for students living in the Garden Square Washington Place neighborhood on Washington Memorial Drive off of Roosevelt Road, who right now are having to come to campus in some cases an hour before class starts. If we send Route 11 through there, we can get them there much sooner because of the timing of that route. So that's another change that we're going to implement next week. And we're also instituting what we're kind of calling some tripper service on routes 8 and 12 to provide some backup for those two routes that essentially kind of replaces the old Campus Clipper South on the Route 12 and Campus Clipper Southeast Express on the Route 8 that we used to have, where we had some additional frequencies to get students back and forth to campus. So we're going to have this as morning service. It's going to start next week. We've got a spare bus. Actually, we're going to use a 40-foot bus for this that we're going to send through and alternate between those two routes for about a 3-hour segment in the morning to help pick up some of that extra need that we have. We're finding that there was a couple times in the morning where our current Route 8 bus was being overloaded, and we certainly don't want to leave anybody at the curb. It's a nice problem to have, but we are a little tight on fleet and a little tight on personnel, so this is something that we're going to do, just an open piece of work for the time being, and hopefully be able to incorporate it into our bid system in the spring bid that starts in January. So those are what we're working on right now for route adjustments. Otherwise, everything else it seems to be working very well in the system from what we implemented in August. A couple other quick little pieces. We've got a couple of free ride days coming up that second week of November. One is on Election Day. All the transit systems in Minnesota are offering free rides on Election Day as a way for people to get out and vote. It's something that the state has requested us to do. We are getting reimbursed from the lost fares in our contract because again, when you cover up the fare box and you're not collecting fares for the day, it's primarily in those cash fares that we're not going to collect for that day. Also on Veterans Day, again, another request from the state is that active military and veterans on Friday, November 11th will also be able to ride for free on our system. And again, that's something we're being reimbursed for on the lost fare side, but again, a way to recognize active military and veterans on that day and thank them for their service. We took delivery last week of our 6 Champion CNG dial ride buses. We have one that's currently in service, and it's being used right now for training for our drivers and our driver instructors. And one of the things with this new bus, because of the size, it's different than the rest of our fleet. They're a little longer, a little wider, a little lower to the ground. And then we have the fuel tanks mounted on top of the vehicle. So we've got about an 18-inch high shroud that covers up those CNG tanks, which makes the vehicle taller than the rest of the fleet. It does create an issue with some of the canopies that we travel under at the various nursing homes, care facilities, and medical facilities that we service. So of the 58 canopies that we currently have in our service area, and that's a lot, about a third of them we no longer can travel under. So we've gone through and done some measurements and actually taken that bus out to see how the bus can travel. So we will be working with our training department to make sure that we change how we serve some of these locations. We can no longer drive underneath some of these canopies, so we're looking for alternate locations outside of the canopy to be able to board and deboard our passengers. I don't see it being a situation where we're going to have them travel, at least from the bus to the door, much further than we were before, which is a nice thing, but it does create a little bit of an issue from operations, so it's something we're addressing with the addition of those new buses. I envision that those all 6 of those buses will be in service probably sometime within the next couple of weeks. Some electronics has to be installed in the remaining 5 and vehicle graphics, then they'll be put in service for their testing. So you'll want to watch out for them. You'll notice them because of the taller shroud to cover the CNG tanks on the roof of those buses. The graphic that's on the board here, or up on the screen, is something that we're implementing some measurable objectives. It's something that the state has asked us to do for all the systems in Minnesota that have contracts with MnDOT. But it's something of particular interest to us, and I'm going to give you a snapshot just of accidents because it's something that's near and dear to all of our hearts because this has a direct cost to our operation when one of our vehicles is involved in an accident, whether it's a preventable accident or a non-preventable accident. The goal that we've set in this measure is to have fewer than 2 preventable accidents per 160,000 miles. We put on about 2 million miles a year in our entire system. That's a lot of miles. And you can see as a percentage of that goal where we've been since 2012. So we were at 96% of that in 2012, and as high as double that 2014. But happy to tell you that we're trending in the right direction. We're actually below that measure at this point in time through 2016. So that means that we've had fewer than 2 preventable accidents per 160,000 miles that the fleet has traveled this year, and hopefully we'll continue to see that trend drop as we've taken a little more aggressive stance on training, both on the front end for our new employees and also remedial training when a driver is involved in a situation. We're taking a very aggressive approach to making sure that that driver gets their remedial training immediately afterwards to go over what went wrong, what happened in that particular case. Most of our accidents, believe it or not, are actually fixed object, where we're running into a fixed object. It's not that we're running into another motor vehicle or other motor vehicles necessarily hitting us, which is a good thing, but it's still not a good thing to have our buses running into fixed object poles and signs and such. So we are working with our training department and again with our street supervisors and our operations staff to assure that we're providing safe service out there and doing the best that we can to alleviate having accidents. I will tell you though that personal injury accidents are nil, which is a good thing. We don't have many slips and falls on our vehicles, which is also another good thing. Again, a testament to our drivers taking good care of our passengers, especially on the dollar ride side where those passengers are very vulnerable to falls, slips and falls and injuries. Our dollar ride drivers do an exceptional job making sure that those passengers stay upright or stay seated when they're being escorted to and from the bus or just moving around in the bus, that we do take good care of those passengers. So I'm encouraged by that. Steve, if you wouldn't mind just scrolling that down to the next one below that. So this is the percentage based on the measure, and this is the actual total number of preventable accidents from 2012. So you can see we trended as high as 46 in 2014, and again we're down to completing last year of 2016 fiscal year of 23 preventable accidents last fiscal year. So it's encouraging. I'd like to get the number to 0, and that's the philosophy that we're taking here moving forward. Is we're going to implement a 0 accident program starting in the first of the year. We're going to get working on the bones of it right now, and it's going to be all the entire operations, but we're actually looking at implementing a new safety program for our entire organization, which involves all of us from maintenance, street operations, and all of us in administration to really encourage and emphasize a safe work environment, not only for our own employees, but for the public that we serve every day. So it's something that we're working on at this point in time. I don't have anything else on my list.